संस्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतार वरिष्ठाय श्रीरामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे त्रयोश्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीजतिराजाय विवेकानन्दशूरयेत् शतकित्सुकस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे कालिन्दी फुल्लकमले माधवेन क्रीडारत ब्रह्मानन्दं नमस्तुभ्यं सद्गुरु लोकनायक अखण्डमण्डलकारं व्याप्तं जन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ঠাকুর মা স্বামীজি এবং পূজ্যপাদ শ্রীমৎ স্বামী অখণ্ডানন্দজি মহারাজের চরণে প্রণাম নিবেদন করব। আজ মহালয়ার শুভ দিনে শ্রীমৎ স্বামী ঠাকুরের অনন্ত পার্ষদের মধ্যে অন্যতম পার্ষদ স্বামী অখণ্ডানন্দজি মহারাজের জন্মদিন। গঙ্গাধর মহারাজ এবং স্বামী অখণ্ডানন্দজি মহারাজের এই মোনাস্টিক নাম ছিল হচ্ছে গঙ্গাধর মুখোপাধ্যায়, এবং স্বামীজি তাকে ছোট করে গঙ্গা বলে ডাকতেন। এবং non-monastic non-monastic name was Gangadhar Maharaj, and monastic name was Swami Akhandananda Maharaj. And he was born on the 30th September in 1864 in Calcutta. And in that English calendar, according to the English calendar, according to the Bengali calendar, he was born on the date of Mahalaya, means on the date of 6th October, and that day was Mahalaya in 1864. Even from his boyhood, he was a deeply religious turn of mind and had an extremely orthodox habit. He bathed several times a day and cooked his one daily meal himself, and read the Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, and regularly practiced meditation. One incident of his childhood is there, very interesting. That is that Maharaj was then a boy, and everyone used to, as a gift, they all used to give the gold chain, very thin, to the child. So one of their neighbor had given to Maharaj, means not Maharaj, Gangadhar. That time was a child. He was a child, Maharaj, and means seeing means and when all make wear the chain, uh, he and he somehow drag it and try to tear it off, and finally he did that, and then he have some relief, right? So from the childhood only we can see that how pure he was. He won't accept any gold, right? On any kind of that material things. And we can see in many other cases, means Thakur, many Parshad of Thakur Sri Ramakrishna is there, for whom life we can see such uh, un means such a unbelievable things, that in last was Swami Vedanandaji Maharaj's birthday, Kali Maharaj. So when he was born in a state of yoga. It's a Padmasana he was born, right? So, from the beginning of the childhood, Maharaj means Gangadhar's life was in a daily routine that was a very orthodox means lead a life in a very orthodox habit. This was his mode of life when he came in contact with Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Dev, probably in 1833 at Dakshineshwar, and which he visited with his friend Horinath or Hori Maharaj, afterwards Swami Turiyanandaji Maharaj. The master was customary with him, received him cordially, and asked him if he had seen him before. The boy answered that he had, when he had been very young, at the house of Dinonath Boshu, was a devotee who lived at Bagbajar. The master made him stay overnight, and means means normal talks that have we made before or not. So Gangadhar Maharaj told that yes, he made in the house of Dinonath Bosu. The master made him stay overnight, and when he asked to leave in the morning, Sri Ramakrishna asked the boy in his characteristic way to come again. That began the close association with the master and the disciple, which afterwards ripened into a strong urge for renunciation of the world on the part of Gangadhar and his dedication towards the service of God. In Maharaj's inspirational quotes we have shared few days ago, I think in the 1st of October, Maharaj is saying that service to man is service to God. It is the what you can say that the whole thing, the actual thing of Ramakrishna, ideal of Ramakrishna mission, but and all the in our lives also, that we should service of we should do we should dedicate our life to service of God in man. We should think the same man is in the God. And after that, every time he visited Dakshineswar, he was charmed to see some new faces of Sri Ramakrishna's God intoxicated life. That time, after the first vision of Thakur Sri Ramakrishna, first vision of what is Kali to Thakur Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Dev, Thakur was more, means according to the world, he was became more insane. Means all the times in meditation, crying for goddess, means next vision of goddess Kali, the Swarup of goddess, and the burning session. We can find it all this thing in the Puthi and the Sri Ramakrishna biography, and the episodes that we are going to make afterwards on that Sri Ramakrishna biography. There is the topic God intoxicated life. That so Swami Akhandananda Maharaj have means have seen this type of was there in this time. He felt the silent transforming influence of his love and received the practical instructions from him in Thakur Ramakrishna on spirituality. Under this, Gangadhar Gangadhar Maharaj gradually dropped his over orthodox observances, which the master described as oldies by saying that look at Naren means Swami Vivekananda. He was such a prominent eyes. He had such a prominent eyes. He chews 100 betel rolls a day and eats whatever he gets. But his mind is deeply introspective. He goes along with the street of Calcutta, seeing the houses and cattle, horses, carriage, and everything as full of God. As Gangadhar Maharaj, Swami Akhandananda Maharaj was means very over orthodox, have over orthodox observance, ideas, paths. So Thakur said that it's very old is, খুব পুরনো হয়ে গেছে. This তো Thakur by saying this give an example of Narendranath. That time Naren ঠাকুরের কাছে Naren and Swami after Swami Vivekananda, that you have such a prominent eyes, such a he chews 100 betel rolls every day and eats whatever he get. But his mind is deeply introspective, and he goes along the street of Calcutta, seeing the houses and horses, carriage, everything as full of God. Go and see him one day. He lives at Simla, a district of Calcutta. The next day, Gangadhar Maharaj saw Narendranath and at once understood the truth of Master's remark. Whatever Master told, Thakur told, he found out by the vision of Swamiji, to whom he reported his impressions. The Master wondered how the boy could learn so much in a single interview, because Swamiji's personality, Swamiji's means that personality was means was different from the other. That at one vision Gangadhar Maharaj learned so many things, and the master was also wondered on seeing this. Gangadhar Maharaj said that on reaching there, I noticed those prominent eyes of his and found him reading the voluminous English work. The room was full of dirt, but he scarcely noticed anything. His mind seemed to be away beyond this world. The master advised him to visit Narendranath often. This was the foundation of his abiding devotion and allegiance to Swamiji, the hero of his life. So, Gangadhar Maharaj chose Swamiji as one of his hero of his life. Gangadhar Maharaj often went to Dakshineswar and subsequently to Kasipur to meet and serve the master till the latter finally entered into Mahasamadhi in August 1886. And there are many service he has done and few incidents related to famine relief work. Whenever a cholera case was reported in the neighborhood, he would run to the spot and try his utmost nurse the patient to recover without any regard of personal safety. At the beginning of 1897, he started towards the north of foot along the Ganga till he came to the village some 20 miles from Behrampur in the district of Murshidabad, where he met a poor Mohammedan girl weeping. Sri had broken her pitcher and the only one in the family, and there was no means to replace it. Swami had only four annas. Annas means that time the coin rupee was known as annas with him. He bought the pitcher from a shop for the girl and gave her half an anna worth of popped rice to eat. While he was resting there, a dozen of emaciated old women in rags surrounded him for food. He immediately spent his little balance in purchasing some food for them. Shortly after this, he came to learn that feminized old woman was lying sick and helpless in that village. He went he at once went there and did he could what he could do to help her. This was his first contact with famine. The further he proceeded, the more frightful spectacles he made. Till at Mahula, he cried halt. He resolved not to move from that place until he relieved that the famine stricken people, and so he wrote to the Alambazar Mott for asking help. Swami Vivekananda, who had not returned to India about 3 months before, dispatched two monks with some money to the scenes. And so on 15th May 1897, the first famine relief work, Ramakrishna Mission, was inaugurated with Mahula and Panchgaon as centers, and it lasted for about a year. In the course of it, Swami Akhandananda Maharaj had to take charge of two orphans, and an idea of founding an orphanage first entered his mind. With encouragement from the district officers, the Swami, after taking temporary care of number of orphans, founded in May 1898 at Mahula the orphanage entitled the Ramakrishna Ashram, which was removed shortly after to a rented house at Sargachi. And after discontinuing there for 13 years, the ashrama has moved to its own premises in the same village, which it has been occupying since March 1930. Swami, from the foundation of this institution to the last day of his life, bestowed his best affection on its improvement, and it saved a good number of orphan boys from starvation, illiteracy, and degradation. Means that time, uh, no such means there was lot of problems that time occurred when means we are talking about that time when Swamiji was abroad. So all can means visualize that time's condition. From 1900 to 1910, the ashram ran a vocational school teaching weaving, sewing, carpentry, and sericulture. The handicrafts turned out by the boys won first prize for several successive years at Banjatia Industrial Exhibition organized by Maharaja Manindra Chandra Nandi of Kashim Bazar, who, by the way, was staunch patron of the institution. Unfortunately, for want of accommodation, the school had to be discontinued. The Swami Akhandananda Maharaj not only attended the general education for the asrama boys, but also paid a due regard to the spiritual training and the chanting of prayers morning and evening being compulsory for them. Selected passages from the sacred books like Ramayana and the Mahabharata were read and explained to them. Orphans were admitted into the ashram without any distinction of caste or creed. Thus, a few Mohammedan boys also maintained the asrama for several years and trained so that they might develop faith in their own religion. Swamiji never did that transformation of the religion, but Swamiji tried to have more faith in their own religion. After the opening of the orphanage, Swami Akhandananda Maharaj could not help taking succor to the distressed in different places. Even at heavy flood at Gogha in the Bhagalpur district of Bihar, he forthwith started a relief work with 50 villages were helped for 10 weeks, and he himself nursed a large number of cholera patients on that occasion. Again, during the terrible earthquake in Bihar in 1934, he, old as he was, personally inspected the scenes of the ravage at Mohingar, Bhagalpur, and gave his impetus to the mission's relief works in those areas. His whole life was full of such disinterested acts. To him, all human beings in distress were veritable divinities, and he found intense joy in serving them. In this, he literally carried out Swamiji's, Swami Vivekananda's behest. The poor, the illiterate, the ignorant, the ignorant, let this be your God. Know that service of this alone is the highest relief. From this, we learn about Maharaj, the thing service to man is service to God. Later of his life, he has done many of these relief services because he have that ideal that service to man is service to God. Mahasamadhi. About a year before his death, had a premonition of the approaching end and told some of the disciples about it. With this view, with this in view, he arranged the recital of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in the presence. Near the end, he expressed his desire to celebrate the Bashanti Puja, the vernal worship of Divine Mother Durga at the ashrama. But knowing that two of his predecessors had 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 the desire had that desire and passed without seeing the ceremony performed, he had been misgiving about his own case too, and expressed himself to that effect. He had shed erected for this purpose and said to the asrama workers, if I do not live to see the puja, at least I have satisfaction of raising this mandapa for mother. You will do rest like the independent man that he was. He often have the idea of suffering long of his deathbed, chafing under these infirmities of old age, and had and at ac- and at having to accept through sheer necessity the loving services of his attendants. He would occasionally declare that he sometimes had mind to break away all these ties and wander alone away from the haunts of men. He loved Sargachi dearly and liked and never liked to be away for it for a long time, for a long if he could help. But it was a cherished desire to give up his body in Belur. That was also happened when he was brought. He was in coma 2 days. I think 2 days ago he was in coma, and after that he had been brought to Dakshineshwar, Kosipur, Kashipur, and that time he was in coma, and at last in Belur Math he was there in front of the Swamiji's mandir, and after that day, I think the 6th February, and in 7th February at the age of 72, 7 February 1937, Swami Akhandananda Maharaj entered into the Mahasamadhi, and from the life of the of Swami Akhandananda Maharaj, we can learn many things, and the main thing is that again the same line: service to man is service to God. Today on this holy occasion, I feel blessed to remember Swami Akhandananda Maharaj's life and teachings. I will end my speech today by touching the feet of Thakur Swamiji and Swami Akhandananda Maharaj. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachvate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishvate. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa.